Hey everybody, it's Bruce here from WaterBear, and I'm catching up with Damian. We haven't had the chance to get together for a long time, but now we're able to do it with the 1 metre thing going on, so that's brilliant. So, hiya, how are you doing? And I asked Damian to come over just to explain a bit about the implications for musicians of the development at Live Nation, because I caught your post and it looks like it's pretty significant, really. So could you just, for the benefit of people who haven't seen it, just summarise what Live Nation have done?
Yeah, so Live Nation is the largest events and promotion company in North America, probably in the world. And over the last however many years, been getting considerably bigger since 2016.
I mean, they have got a big offices in Oxford Street.
Have they?
Yes.
So, I mean, huge company, and the growth between 2016 to 2020 was far more significant than any years previous to that. And because of the thing that's outside that we're not allowed to talk about, because you're not allowed to say it on YouTube, otherwise you get demonetized. So
why is that? Is that because it's depressing for everybody?
I don't know.
Well, please don't. It is depressing, so please don't.
Yeah, so YouTubers don't say it. But because of that, all events were off, all events were shut down, and then there was a leaked memo which went to a bunch of sort of small and medium-sized agencies, which laid out sort of the what's going to happen moving forward from Live Nation's point of view to any artists and agents moving forward, which was they said that they were going to cut 20% off any agreed fee.
Even if it's already agreed?
Yeah, especially the ones that were already agreed. Then I didn't actually have a problem with that one myself.
No, because we've all got to make some sacrifices.
Yeah, because times are tough. But there was a lot of other things. So other things included taking 30% of the merch. There was the insurance was a big thing for me. So instead of Live Nation taking on the insurance, they've just said, look, insurance is getting out of hand. The band is now in control of their own insurance. One of the things was if a band has to pull out for any reason, then the band has to pay the festival or the event twice as much as the income that they were going to take in.
That's very bizarre.
That's a big one, isn't it? Plus also, what usually happens with a festival, as you'll know, is should an event get cancelled because of not enough ticket sales, usually the band will still get their fee. Whereas in this instance now, they're only going to get 25% if they get cancelled by the festival.
So why do you need a promoter? Because a promoter, that's always been the deal. We'll take the risk, everybody. We'll sort it all out. You come up. So if you're not going to take the risk, why do I need a promoter?
It's a crazy one, isn't it? Because if you look at it, you just think, well, this is the last stand for musicians. I try and be really positive about things like Spotify and social media and what that's brought to us because of the lack of gatekeepers now and what you can do, which is fantastic, except where you make your money is touring, is merchandise, and that's the bit, even massive bands will just say, hey, I'm a glorified t-shirt salesman, I go out, I do gigs, and that's where I make my money, is basically on the road, selling merchandise whilst being on the road. As soon as you take that bit away from musicians, now you've got a problem. Where do you go from there?
But I think my take on this is it's total nonsense because no one will have it. And I think even today there's signs of furious backpedaling, isn't there? But it's a little bit too late because it's just like major labels in 2005. We just realised we didn't need them. Why would we need them? The deal's not good. You can do everything yourself. You can book a venue even to the highest level.
So this is quite interesting because obviously you've done so much touring and stuff, but like nowadays it's quite difficult to bypass Live Nation as a whole, because when you put a tour together, I mean, they own hundreds of venues and they're in control of so many of the major festivals in the world. Yeah,
Download, for example, which we played 2012, and who knows, may do again if we get back together again, and we've got some really good friends there, but you've got to separate the people who are, Andy Coppin, who runs Download, absolute diamond geezer, he lives and breathes music, he does an awful lot for bands, but at the end of the day he works for a corporation, so there's a limit to what you can do as an individual. That's why we run WaterBear, so we can run our own college, and that's why you're independent.
Absolutely.
Because we've had those experiences.
So then you've got this thing where it's like, well, how do you bypass? Because a lot of people in my comments were just like, well, just bypass Live Nation. Now, the issue for me is, on a very, very small level, of course, bypass Live Nation. If you are Slipknot, all right, bypass Live Nation. But there's quite a lot of bands that are in that really awkward stage, in the middle ground. It's like this is our livelihood. We make enough money to keep this business afloat, and we will do a certain amount of touring in certain sized venues. And if we get onto a festival, it's big payday.
Well, I put some calls in this morning to people who would know about what's going on a little bit behind the scenes, and obviously I can't name any names, but they did say you will see an awful lot of arena tours happening in 21, provided the social distancing allows, but they won't have Live Nation on the posters. So I think the reaction, because actually the people that hold the power here are the bands with the audiences, and their managers are, you know, if you take these big bands and these big artists, they employ managers to deal with this stuff, and they're generally not shy and retiring types, and they assert themselves where they need to do. And I think there's been a very strong reaction back. And there's various legal commitments, and I suppose that if it's a legal commitment, you have to honour it. So I think the power balance has kind of done this, and it's really come down in favour of the artist, even in the mid-level. I think it will, because at the end of the day, you don't have to do the gig.
No.
And you can go do a gig somewhere else. And there's not many of those headliners, but equally, even in the middle bracket, there's not many bands that genuinely pull significant tickets. And the bands at the bottom, when Colour of Noise played Download, we played like one of the fourth stage. We got paid 300 quid, and we were glad to be on that bill because we were a new band. We were honoured to be on the bill, so that's the deal. But there's a lot of bands at that level. Yeah. We've never had any power at that level until we build up our own audience, and then we do.
And then that's the bit. So if you looked at, say for example, if you looked at halfway down the main stage, or even sort of halfway down the second stage, there's some decent bands, there's some decent level bands.
Well, their gig fees would be, halfway down second stage, their gig fee would be somewhere between 150,000 and 200,000, depending on the act.
So can you imagine what would happen?
Maybe a bit less than that, actually,
Say you're on 100, maybe even 50. So 50
to
100. So say somewhere around there, you're on 50 to 100 grand, something like that. At that moment, your singer's like, my voice is gone. My voice is shot.
Well, it happens, or if you have a death in the family.
Absolutely, what happens?
Or, I mean, when we did Download, the band on before us was Europe, and they were stuck in the traffic, getting in the festival, and they missed the slots. What would happen then? Yeah. They'd lose their fee.
They wouldn't just lose the fee. They'd owe the festival twice as much as they were going to get. So you've got to sign up for that. You've got to say, I will accept those terms.
I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't sign up to it.
But at the same point, I think this is where it gets awkward, because in hindsight we're on this cusp, and like right now, things like Spotify, you look at it and go, well, how did we end up here where music is worth nothing? We're in this position where it's taken over, and all of a sudden there's no power for making money from selling music apart from selling merch. Yeah. The issue with this is with Live Nation is, should bands be forced to sign up to it because they have to play, because they're not making any money from the music, so they have to play certain times. If there's enough of a monopoly, and if AEG or other companies of the same ilk say, well, we can do the same thing, how do bands, unless we all get together and say none of us are going to play, which if we look at the history of musicians, that hasn't happened.
No, because there's always someone who wants to play, and we do want to play, and we will play. And this was the concern when Live Nation merged with Ticketmaster. There was a lot of concern that they were trying to build a monopoly, and that was the strategy. I can't remember what year that was. You'd have to check it on, I think it was around 2010. You'd have to check that out. But there was concern in the US and the UK. Bruce Springsteen was speaking out about it, like, look, everyone, this is going to be a monopoly. And there's been a very big buy and build, and the whole thing's got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's becoming increasingly impossible for the other agents to compete. But the fact is, it's now this monster. Is it actually really making any money? Because there's various reports as well you can read that actually the build process is very exciting and it looks great, but it's very costly, so it's towing around an unbelievable amount of debt. For me, it's classic. It's just like the major labels. It's almost like a property bubble or a pyramid selling, and you've got this thing that's got bigger and bigger and bigger. Sooner or later you get, and it's gone. And I think they've overplayed the hand a bit. I think it's like the modern age, you see the things with the situation that we can't mention. The people that have the biggest problems are the biggest corporations. the people that have the agility to move quick and change the way they do business quickly, they're going to do really well. Well, it's not Live Nation, is it?
No, absolutely not. So could you see a time where there isn't a Live Nation, or there aren't these sort of conglomerates, and if so, would it just be someone else would come and take their place?
I think so. I don't think, where's the power? The power's in the artist and the audience. So the middle, whoever facilitates that.
But is that not where the power is, the facilitator?
No, because that person could do it, or that person could do it, or you could do it yourself.
True. Yeah, preaching to the converted, bands and DIY. That's my.
But
whole
even
channel.
at high level, you could do it yourself.
But that's the bit they haven't yet.
They haven't yet, but they will.
I hope so.
Because no one's going to put up with this nonsense. And as I say, I've got good friends at Live Nation. Wish them all the best. And they'll be evolving. I don't know quite what's going on behind the scenes. It'd be interesting to see how it evolves. And it'll fall into another structure like major labels. They become a part of the landscape, not the landscape, and an increasingly kind of distant one. Because we're all over here doing our thing independently. It's the same with live independent music. And I'll give you something, it's worrying. Look at the rise of Patreon. Look at the rise of, I did a post about people doing small gigs to niche audiences and making good money doing it. So it's always been, since the internet, it's always been about independent artists, direct relationship with the fans, and the less middle institutions you've got, the better, particularly those that have got big offices in London, because those bills have to be paid for, those salaries have to be paid for. Cut it all out, because direct to the artist, that's the future of the music industry.
So you have to take control, otherwise you'll need the middleman. The only way you don't need the middleman is you've got to learn how this works.
Well, the last thing, that's why when you get a band saying, I need a manager, you're like, you don't need a manager right now. You need to manage yourself, sort it all out, learn how it all works, and then at some point you'll bring a manager in, but you'll still be at the centre of it.
100%. That bit where you say learn how it works, people say I need a manager, it's only because you're saying I don't know what to do, as opposed to I'm prepared to do the work.
Yeah. Make good music, do the work, grow your audience. That's essentially your music industry career. Very good. Let's watch and see what happens. Any opinions? Be really interested to know what you think. And if you want to do this kind of work on your music career a lot, and music's become a very important part of your life, don't forget you can study a 3-year degree, a 2-year online degree, blended learning, online, on-site. It's very flexible these days, and you can also study a master's qualification here at WaterBear. If you're interested in the courses, check out the link below.